All right, welcome everybody to MKC's Learning Center here in Moundridge, Kansas. My name's Scott Bile. I'm the Director of Safety for MKC, and it's March 27th, the first day of Stand Up for Grain Safety Week. We're going to kick it off here with a live engulfment demonstration. So we have this engulfment demonstrator. The purpose of it is for firemen and first responders to come in and do training so that they can respond to a incident in a grain facility. But here at MKC, we don't walk on grain that has a potential to engulf us more than waist deep without being tied off from above. So what this simulation is showing is an employee gets into a bin without being tied off from above, and then someone starts unloading the bin. So what we're going to do is engulf our volunteer, Jeremy, and then we will pick back up after he's been engulfed. So we can fire this thing up. And then after he's engulfed, we'll talk about not walking on grain. Okay, so now our victim is engulfed up to his waist and he's stuck there. But before we get in the bin, we want to make sure that there's no way that we can keep moving grain and make this problem even worse. And so what we've done is locked out the leg, so there's no way to reclaim more grain and pull Jeremy down any further than he is. The other thing we need to consider is our bin entry observer. We want to make sure he stays outside of the bin and he gets the help that the person inside of the bin needs. There's a statistic out there that says 60% of the time when more than one person is engulfed in grain and dies, it's because the second person rushed in the bin to try to save the first person, and they both got into trouble inside of the bin. And so what we're going to do now that we've locked out any way of emptying this bin any further is we want to make sure that we tie off this person who's inside the bin from above. And so that's what we'll do here. So now he is tied off from above. There's no way that he can move from that spot. And we've locked out the bottom of the bin. Our first responders can get inside of the bin. So what our first responders have done is put in these crates here to make it easier to work inside the bin, because when you're walking on the grain, you can sink a little bit. And also what we don't want to do too much of is walking around the person who's engulfed, because the more we walk around them, the more we're compressing that grain onto them. So the first step is to grab this rod here, and the purpose of this rod is to poke around and find out where the person's, where his body is. Typically, you don't get engulfed straight up and down like this. You may have a leg off to one side, and when we run the cofferdams in, we don't want to run it into his leg or a part of his body. And so we'll poke around a little bit, make sure we know the extent of the person's body, and then we can start running the cofferdam in. This cofferdam, it's got ball and socket joints here on the edges to where we can make a circle around the person, or we can make a straight wall if we need to. If someone's engulfed on a slope, we want to put it up slope of the person. That way we can move the grain out from around the guy without having to fight with the grain that's coming back down the slope. And so I'll start handing these in to our rescuers, and they'll start building a circle around Jeremy. And when we're placing this cofferdam, we want to make sure that we're not pushing it too far in the grain. If this thing doesn't go together perfectly, it can get bound up and be a challenge to finish. And eventually we're going to put a rescue auger in, and we'll need a space to put that. So we'll leave a little bit of room in front of Jeremy to run that auger in. All right, we'll get our last piece run in here. There we go. All right, now that we've got the cofferdam built, we can go ahead and run it in. So what we'll do is we'll step on these rungs here and kind of push it into the grain. All right, and that's probably far enough. And we'll grab this bar that's right by Justin. And what this is for is to allow the person inside of the bin to self-rescue. If it's possible, he can pull up on the bar. He's probably stuck right now, so we need to get some grain out. But one thing to remember, when someone is engulfed in the bin, you know, they're pretty stressed out. They need something to take their mind off of what's going on, and also, you know, move some blood around, make sure you've got good circulation, because that grain is pushing against his body and preventing proper blood flow. So now that we've got the cofferdam set up and the bar in, our next step will be to put our rescue auger in. Let you run it in, Justin. So this is just a small auger with guarding on the end. It'll run itself down into the grain as long as you've got the drill going on the Titan setting. You want to make sure that if you're bringing a drill into the bin for rescue purposes, you want to make sure it's brushless. So Justin, you can go ahead and start up the auger. So while Justin's running the auger, something that the person inside of the cofferdam can do is move grain towards the auger. That again helps him keep that circulation up. So while Justin's running the auger, Jeremy on the inside will be pushing grain to the auger. So now that we've moved enough grain out of inside of the cofferdam, Jeremy's able to use this bar to pull himself up out of the grain. There's rungs on the outside here. There's also rungs on the inside, which he can use to climb out of the cofferdam. You want me to pull the auger out? We can just leave it inside of the bin. Okay, so Jeremy is going to pull himself out and climb out of the cofferdam now. All right, so we have now successfully rescued our victim. A couple things to talk about here before we end the video is, now's a good time this spring to get your local fire department out to your elevator. A lot of firemen have never been in an elevator before, and so it's a good chance to talk about where's our main disconnect. They'll want to shut the power off before they go into an elevator. Things like if you're in the tunnel and there's no power and it's dark, if you follow the belt one way or the other way, there's either an emergency exit or a normal entrance and exit. Show them the size of the manholes to get into a bin. They're not going to be able to fit with all their equipment on. Show them the man lift. If the power's off, they're going to have to climb. And so orienting them with the different hazards they may face in a grain elevator, now is a good time to have them, come through your elevator. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to catch the rest of our videos this week as we participate in Stand Up for Grain Safety Week. Thank you.